So I thought we'd start by a little bit of a story time. Three different stories, and three stories of organizations or ministries that you might have heard of, or maybe you haven't. But they're three stories that I think are going to matter here in a second. So the first story is about an organization called Passion. And that is an organization, it's a Christian organization where they're all about bringing college students to have an encounter with Christ and then to share that with their campuses. They started in 1997, Passion did. And you might know this, you probably know this, but like college students are like the hardest students to reach for Christ. Like you talk about a demographic that's the hardest to reach, and that is college students. Nobody wants to do ministry to college students. Nobody wants to do conferences to college students. And yet in 1997, a man named Louis Giglio decided to do conferences for college students for them to know Christ and then bring it to their campus. And everybody thought he was crazy, and yet he really wanted to do this. So he did his first conference in 1997, and after that conference, he sent like correspondence to all the people that went. And I think it was like the first few days of email. So that he sent an email to them. And a few hundred people went to this first conference with this big mission. And this conference was in Atlanta, Georgia. And he signed the end of the email with like the weirdest signature ever. He said, "To the dome, Louis." That's how he signed it. Now, in Atlanta, you would know exactly what that meant. You would know that "to the dome" meant that he wanted the conference to someday take place in the Georgia Dome. And that's where the Falcons play. It seats 60,000 people. So to put that into perspective, that would be like Megan at the end of spring retreat being like, next year, we're going to have this in Bengals Stadium. And everybody would like cheer and be really excited. I mean, it was crazy. It was stupid. There was no way this conference of a few hundred college students, the hardest students ever to reach, would ever be in the Georgia Dome. And yet in 1997, in the first year, after 200 or 300 people went, he signed the email to the Dome. And in 2011, they were in the Dome. And last year, there's been a replacement to the Dome since. They filled the Dome. And now they have run out of room. There are no arenas left big enough to house the amount of people that want to go to the Passion Conference for college students to learn about Christ and to share that with their campuses. For nothing is impossible for God. Here's another story. You might know this, but we use resources by an organization called Life Teen. And Life Teen is a Catholic youth ministry organization that started in 1985, the year before I was born, because I'm old. And in 1985, it started because there was a high school student like you guys probably who went up to his parish priest and said, "I'm leaving the Catholic Church." And the priest said, "Why? Like, is it our belief in the Eucharist or Mary? Is there anything I can explain to you?" And he said, "The reason I'm leaving the church is because I went to my friend's church and I felt loved there. And I have never felt loved in your church before. And so I'm leaving." And the priest looked at him straight in the eye and said, "We are never going to let that happen again." So he started an organization, a youth ministry organization called Life Teen at one parish in Mesa, Arizona. I've been to this parish before. And all of a sudden, from this one parish in Mesa, Arizona, it grew and it grew and it grew. And hundreds and thousands of kids were coming to this one youth group. And you had to show up an hour early to get a seat. And Matt Maher led worship there. He was the worship leader, but he was just a college student at the time, so nobody knew who he was. And all of a sudden, these other youth ministers were taking note and wondering what was going on, and they were wondering if they could do Life Teen too. And so from one parish then in 1985, it's now in 1,800 parishes and 31 countries. And on a Sunday night, when we usually have youth group, 100,000 other kids are having it at the same time. In fact, the countries where they send their youth ministry resources to, they have to send them in unmarked boxes in some cases because it's illegal to practice Christianity in those countries. And yet, because of one kid, that is where Life Teen is today. For nothing is impossible for God. Or I'll give you another example. A lot of you guys know this one. Catholic Youth Summer Camp, which is like a behemoth of Catholic youth ministry now. They have like 9 or 10 weeks and multiple age levels and the most beautiful facilities and camps and all that kind of stuff. Started from one parish. They had 1 week and they didn't even have a location. They were like homeless, looking for a location every year. And now they are the premier Catholic retreat center, probably in the Midwest, all from 1 week in one parish in 2001, which is not even that long ago. For nothing is impossible for God. I could give you story after story after story of examples of God doing something you would never expect. But me quoting that is not, you probably know this, it's not my own words. Luke 1:27, those are the words in Luke 1:27. For nothing is impossible for God. And if you look at that Bible verse, it's in the most interesting place. It's right after Mary got the news that she was going to birth Jesus, and the angel came. And if I was Mary, I would be peeing myself, like freaking out in that moment. So she just got that news, right? She peed. She was a human. So like I would be freaking out for that. And then right after that is when she said, let it be. She gave her fiat. She said, I am the handmaid of the Lord. So the moment where for nothing is impossible with God is sandwiched in between where she got the news and where she said yes. It's like right in between, which I think is so interesting. And the question I want us to kind of think about today and think about kind of in the next moment is, do you think before this moment, Mary had plans? Was she a planner? Did she have plans for her life? Did she have things kind of that she wanted to do? Or did she have plans for the next like 2 weeks? Did she have plans for the next 9 months? Did she have plans? Were there plans that she had for her life? Or do you think she was just kind of like her hands open, was like, Lord, whatever you want. And she did that for her whole life. Now, I don't know. She hasn't told me, but here's what I think. I think she did. You know why I think she had plans? Because she was human, and all humans have plans. We love plans. Plans are just what it means to be human. There's something in us that likes to have plans. And yet, even though she had plans, and here's the key, she was interruptible, wasn't she? Her plans were interruptible to what God wanted to do. And what God wanted to do, clearly it seemed impossible, but it was way bigger than she could ever think. Now, why does that relate to us? I think that relates to us because we all have plans, don't we? And I think a lot of us are thinking of plans we have like now and plans we have this summer. There are a lot of us that have plans. We just want to go to summer camp this summer. We just want to hang out with our friends. We just want to go to the pool. I go on vacation every year and I really want to do that. I think a lot of us have plans, and I think a lot of the things we're struggling with right now is I just want to be able to do the things that I like to do. I want to go to mass. Like I want to do the normal things. And it seems like our plans or the things that we normally plan, everything's uncertain right now. And the same question that we have to pose for Mary is what we have to pose for us today. Are we interruptible? Are we interruptible? Are we letting it be that God interrupts? He interrupts our plans so that he could do something better, so that he could do the impossible. If nothing is impossible for God, one of the ways that he allows something to be impossible is by interrupting our normal human plans. And I think for a lot of us, while we're going to have to give up what we normally do, I think he's going to interrupt us in ways that we never thought were possible. We never thought were possible. It's true. It is my birthday today, May 15th, and I will never forget May 15th, 2020. And a lot of you have been doing like fine by this virus. You're doing fine. You're not worried about it. You're kind of enjoyed the chill time. for me, it's been really hard. The first of all, I'm a planner, so I love to think about the future. So I've had anxiety about the future, or I've worried about what's my present day going to look like, or I've been mad that in the past I've ruined time that I've had. I've seemed to be focused on all these different time periods, and I've had to come to the point where enough is enough. Instead of me fighting God, I'm going to allow him to do whatever he wants. I'm going to allow my summer to be interruptible so that he can do whatever he wants. And the same challenge is for us. When Mary said, let it be, it wasn't just a moment in history. It is said to us today. And so we have the opportunity to let whatever now is be and see what the Lord can do in the midst of that. So anyway, that's the challenge. I am not speaking to you from a place of authority or of somebody that has done this. Normally when I give my talks, I'm preaching to myself. So that's what I'm doing here, but we're doing that together. And I look forward to being with all you guys after the summer ends and for us to share all the glory stories, not only just being together. I cannot wait to give a talk free of Zoom. I cannot wait to give a talk in person, but I also can't wait to be together where we can share all the ways God has done things we've never seen him do because we let him interrupt our normal life. So that is the prayer. That is the prayer today.